Sometime in the next 8 days, could be as early as Wednesday, Josh Schertz from Indiana State could be named the new head coach at St. Louis University. And here to break down the SLU situation and March Madness is the Billiken Hall of Famer and TV analyst, Scott Highmark. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
You bet. Good to be with you.
So you've kept an eye on Indiana State. And what do you think when you watch that club play?
Yeah, well, first of all, you hate to see anybody lose their job, and so I'm very grateful for the job that Travis Ford did at St. Louis U. I've been watching Indiana State all year because I like basketball and follow the Missouri Valley. So, but you know, we'll see what happens with SLU and Schertz. Obviously, he's been a hot candidate, but I think the way they play is super interesting. They have an open post concept. They've got a great big guy. If you saw Richmond play, they play a lot like Richmond. So they'll have a high post come up, a very skilled big man, and then they run a lot of ball screens. They run a lot of rubs off of him, and you've got to have a very skilled passer like they have in Avila. It's super interesting. The way they play, their spacing is incredible. They play a lot of pressure defense. They score, 80s, 90s, even into the hundreds. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the next week or so, but super interesting. If that happens, I think a lot of optimism for Billiken fans.
And let's face it, we've had really good teams since the Spoon Hour regime, but we haven't had many that are really entertaining to watch. Yeah. And in terms of excitement with 400 threes, one of the most efficient offenses in the country, I mean, St. Louis could fall in love if the wins come with it.
Yeah, I think style of play matters. I think it matters from a fan's perspective. I think it matters from a recruit. And in this college environment nowadays, you got to be able to recruit and you got to be able to retain. And so you have to play a style that kids want to play in. And you've got to be a good leader. You've got to be able to keep young kids and their families and want them to stay rooted where you are. But I think style of play matters. They play a very entertaining style of basketball, and I think wherever Josh Schertz ends up, that's going to transfer.
If it is Schertz, everybody wondering, could he bring his 5? And I think it's a legitimate question. Can you afford his 5?
It's an opportunity for St. Louis U to reset and say, how are we going to be really competitive? If we want to play, be a top 25 program, as we always talk about, if you want to compete at the highest level and not just make the tournament, but advance in the tournament, you got to compete in all of those areas. And I have the highest degree of confidence that they understand what the market value is for these young men, or any young men in college basketball. You have to understand what the market is, and you got to be able to compete in the marketplace, and I think they're ready to do that.
All right, let's talk NCAA tourney. With the exception of your Parkway West teams, have you ever seen a team go on a 30-0 run against another really good team like Illinois yesterday, what UConn did?
Never seen anything like it. And I mean, I think Danny Hurley, speaking of coaching, is really good. Those guys play really hard, but they're so deep. They've got great guards. Again, they've got big guys. Klingen's, probably a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, and then they bring other bodies off the bench. I never thought anybody was going to be able to slow Terrence Shannon from getting downhill like Russell Westbrook, but they literally stopped him. And I thought Hurley made a great adjustment at halftime when he switched out and went a little bigger on Damask, because they love to isolate Damask. And they switched that out, put a 6'9" guy on him, slowed him down. Illinois looked very ordinary in the second half. UConn looks incredibly tough to beat.
Wall Street Journal had an article recently about how the women's game is more popular, their tournament is more popular than the men. And they went on to gush about Caitlin Clark. Now, I don't believe the TV ratings don't reflect that, the men's ratings are blowing them away. Yeah. But I do think there's some merit in that Caitlin Clark is probably the most famous college athlete, this year.
For sure. I mean, she's like the Taylor Swift of college basketball. She's the one doing State Farm commercials and all the commercials. I mean, yesterday you had Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins, and Paige Beckers playing back to back to back. I mean, think about Caitlin, Paige, and Juju. You don't have to say their last names. Even a casual sports fan would know those women basketball players. And you talk about NIL, there's more women cashing on NIL at that level, maybe even than the guys. It's amazing.
All right, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
That is the great Scott Highmark. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back after this.